In 1620, 102 passengers aboard the Mayflower stepped ashore in the New World. But who were these brave explorers? Let's find out. In the UK, we generally think of Thanksgiving as being an American celebration, but did you know that countries such as Canada and China also celebrate their own versions of Thanksgiving? Also, America actually has us Brits to thank for the original Thanksgiving feast. You're welcome. So, you know the story. A bunch of pilgrims arrived in the New World, stepped ashore via a rock they named Plymouth, made friends with the Native Americans, and celebrated their first successful harvest by feasting on cooked turkey, cranberry sauce, potatoes, and pumpkin pie. And thus Thanksgiving was born, right? Well, not quite. The Mayflower. The Mayflower first landed at the tip of Cape Cod in what is now Provincetown, so not a rock in Plymouth then. The famous Plymouth Rock didn't actually get a mention in any of the surviving documents at the time, and only first appeared in the town records in 1715, but without any historical association. In 1741, a 94-year-old man named Thomas Fonce claimed the original Mayflower passengers had pointed out the rock to him as their original landing spot. But his memory may have been a little hazy. Can we just take a sec to consider the likelihood of bringing a ship alongside a slippery boulder on a choppy December sea? I am Pilgrim. The Pilgrims weren't actually known as the Pilgrims until a good 200 years later, when the orator Daniel Webster referred to the settlers as the Pilgrim Fathers. At the time, they called themselves saints, aka separatists from the Church of England, and those members of the party who weren't saints were known as strangers. They were also collectively given the charming pet name of puke stockings by the crew aboard the Mayflower, owing to their inventive use of filling the latter with the former during their voyage. Charming. The separatists had been living in exile in Holland for about 10 years before setting sail for the New World. They had rejected the Church of England, and although still religious, they believed that their congregations should be separated from the English state church, but this had been made illegal. Concerned that they were losing their English cultural identity in the Netherlands, the separatists left for the New World. Puritans, on the other hand, remained part of the church, wishing only to purify it. Among the passengers aboard the Mayflower were 2 tailors, a printer, several merchants, a silk worker, a shopkeeper, and a hatter. Yeah, they weren't exactly the best prepared people to tackle a strange and unfamiliar land. Failing to bring a single cow, horse, or even a fishing line, they did, however, have at their disposal a drum, a trumpet, a candle snuffer, sundials, and a complete history of Turkey, which, if you ever get a chance, is a really enjoyable read. A man named William Mullins even packed no fewer than 126 pairs of shoes and 13 pairs of boots. You could say he had some serious soul-searching to do. As a result of being so ill-prepared, the settlers began dying off in quick succession, and less than 6 months after their arrival, only 54 people had managed to survive the harsh winter. What did they look like? When you think of what the original Plymouth colony settlers would have looked like, you'll probably think long black coats, high white collars, and buckles. Lots of buckles. Boy, did those pilgrims love a buckle. Or did they? Actually, it was the Victorian artists of the 19th century who loved to add buckles to their images of how pilgrims looked, thinking it made them look more vintage. And let's face it, accuracy wasn't exactly their strong suit. Also, the pilgrims' clothes were mostly brown, green, and orange, not the black and white look you might be more familiar with. They did, however, wear the stovepipe hat, although some might say that the hat wore them. The New World. Arriving in the New World, the Pilgrims were eventually greeted by a couple of Native Americans, known as Samoset and Tisquantum, but struggling with his name, they just called him Squanto. They showed the Pilgrims how to farm crops successfully, catch fish and wildfowl, and make friends with the local Wampanoag tribe. But wait a sec, how did a random bunch of English settlers find a pair of Native Americans ready to welcome them in their own language? Squanto. Basically, the New World wasn't really that new in the 1600s, and by the time Squanto met the Plymouth colony Pilgrims, he'd already been taken to England in 1605, where he spent 9 years. He returned to the New World as an interpreter for John Smith in 1613, where he was almost instantly kidnapped by another Englishman, taken to Spain and sold as a slave, before somehow escaping back to England, where in 1619 he returned again to the New World. Having been gone for nearly 15 years, Squanto returned to find that his tribe had been recently wiped out by a plague, most probably smallpox brought by the Europeans. Ironically, at that moment in time, Squanto didn't really have much to be thankful for. The first Thanksgiving. Fast forward 1 year, and as a result of Squanto's help, the Pilgrims enjoyed their first successful harvest in 1621, which is now referred to as the first Thanksgiving. However, today's national holiday didn't actually occur until the mid-1800s. So how did this seemingly random one-off feast come to be known as the first Thanksgiving? Thanksgiving today. America should really give thanks to one female writer, not only for penning the charming poem Mary Had a Little Lamb, but also for launching a national campaign in 1827 to bring about a Thanksgiving holiday. Her name was Sarah Josepha Hale, and feeling inspired by a diary of pilgrim life, she wanted to recreate the Pilgrims' feast by publishing recipes that the Pilgrims almost certainly wouldn't have eaten, such as pumpkin pie, turkey, and stuffing. And after writing to President Abraham Lincoln about the idea of a Thanksgiving Day, he announced in 1863 that the nation would celebrate Thanksgiving every year on August 6th. This date was quickly moved to the last Thursday in November, where it has remained ever since, apart from a brief period during the Depression when it was brought forward by a week to give stores an extra week of potential Christmas shopping. And that, my friends, is the story of how Thanksgiving came to be. What's your favourite part about Thanksgiving? Let us know in the comments or tweet us at Anglophenia. Head over to Facebook and like our page too. And I would personally like to give thanks to you. Thanks for watching. That one goes really well with a side of cranberry sauce. You'll be so thankful you watched that one. Enjoy this one with a slice of pumpkin pie. Feast your eyes on that one.